The Moscow dream. She left. I stayed. Now she needs my help. Chapter 1. The Echo of a Distant City. Omaha, Nebraska, 2023. At 48, my life was a quiet, comfortable hum. My husband, Michael, an engineer, was my steady anchor. Our home, a cozy haven nestled amongst the tree-lined streets of Omaha, reflected years of shared laughter, quiet evenings, and the gentle rhythm of everyday life. I taught literature at a local college, a job I loved, surrounded by books and the eager minds of my students. It was, by all accounts, a good life, a calm life. But sometimes, on a quiet afternoon, when the wind carried the scent of distant rain, a whisper from the past would stir, a memory of a different life, a different dream. Back in the 90s, when I was fresh out of our small Nebraska high school, my best friend Katya and I had shared a grand, improbable ambition. We were inseparable, bound by late-night talks, whispered secrets, and a fierce yearning for something more than our sleepy hometown offered. Our dream? Moscow. Moscow was a shimmering mirage to us then, a city of endless possibilities, of towering ambition, of glamour, intrigue, and life lived on a grand scale. We devoured books about Russian history, watched documentaries about its vibrant culture. We fantasized about being intrepid journalists, uncovering truths, changing the world, just like the heroes in the novels we devoured. Katya, with her fiery spirit, her dazzling charisma, her insatiable hunger for life, would be the daring investigative reporter. I, quieter, more reflective, would be her eloquent wordsmith, shaping her adventures into compelling narratives. Moscow was our beacon, our escape from the mundane, the symbol of everything we craved. Then life intervened. In 2000, right after college, Katya, true to her adventurous spirit, made the leap. She packed a single suitcase, hugged me goodbye, tears in her eyes, promises of grand adventures on her lips. "I'll make it big, Anna, and I'll tell you all about it." And she was gone. To Moscow, to chase the dream we had both nurtured. I stayed. My mother fell ill shortly after Katya left, requiring constant care. My responsibility was clear, undeniable. The dreams of Moscow, of intrepid journalism, slowly faded into the background, replaced by the quiet realities of nursing, of a local teaching job, of building a life with Michael, who understood my quiet nature, my grounded spirit. Katya and I kept in touch, at first. Rare phone calls on holidays, short, breathless emails. She spoke of a dazzling career in media, of lavish parties, a life that seemed plucked from the pages of a glossy magazine. She was living the Moscow dream, it seemed, and I, though sometimes a pang of what if would prick me, was genuinely happy for her, content with my own choices. And then silence, or rather, a deepening of the silence. The calls became rarer, the emails stopped. Life, as it often does, had simply spun us in different directions. We were two branches from the same tree, growing in vastly different climates. Until one evening, the digital chime of a new email. My heart gave a little jump. The sender, Katya. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, a strange mix of curiosity and apprehension. The subject line? "Anna, I need your help. Urgent." My breath caught in my throat. The email was short, rushed, almost frantic. "Anna, I'm in deep trouble, deeper than you can imagine. I have no one else to turn to. Please, just respond. I'll explain everything." A shockwave ripped through my carefully constructed calm. Katya? In trouble? The successful, invincible Katya? The woman who had conquered Moscow? Who seemed utterly impervious to the hardships of life? What could possibly have happened to her? And why, after all these years, was she reaching out to me? The quiet, grounded Anna in Omaha, Nebraska. A sense of profound unease mixed with a forgotten sense of duty. A ghost from my past had reappeared, not as a glamorous adventurer, but as a desperate plea for help. Chapter 2: Whispers of Trouble. The email from Katja hung in the air, a phantom presence in my cozy living room. Urgent, deep trouble, no one else to turn to. The words spun in my mind, stark and terrifying. I tried to call her. Her old number was disconnected. I tried texting, then emailing a frantic reply. Katja, what's wrong? Are you okay? Where are you? Silence. No response. The unsettling void deepened. I walked into the kitchen where Michael was calmly preparing dinner. The comforting sizzle of vegetables in a pan, the familiar scent of garlic, felt alien in the face of this sudden digital intrusion from a forgotten past. Michael, I said, my voice thin. I just got an email from Katja. He paused, spatula in hand. Katja? Your friend from high school? The one who went to Moscow? A slight frown creased his brow. After all these years? What does she want? I handed him my phone. He read the terse, panicked message. His brow furrowed deeper. This sounds serious. Do you think it's a scam? No, I said without hesitation. No, it's her. I know it. There's something in the way it's written. Something desperate. She wouldn't ask for help if she didn't truly need it. My gut told me, a deep, intuitive knowing. The bond, though stretched thin by decades, still vibrated with a hidden resonance. That night, sleep eluded me. My mind replayed fragments of our youth. Katja and I sitting on my bedroom floor, poring over maps of Moscow, dreaming of journalistic triumphs. Katja, her eyes shining with ambition, declaring, Omaha is too small for me, Anna. I need more. I need to be where things happen. And me, agreeing, mirroring her excitement, even as a quieter part of me wondered if I truly wanted the same grand stage. The memory of her confident farewell, her unwavering belief in her own destiny, made her current plea for help all the more shocking. What could possibly have humbled my invincible Katja? The next day, driven by a restless urgency, I started digging. I opened my old photo albums, dusty and neglected. Pictures of Katja, vibrant, laughing, her long dark hair flying, eyes full of mischief and fire. Pictures of us, arms slung around each other, two gangly teenagers with big dreams. The weight of our shared history, of promises made in innocent youth, settled over me. We had sworn to always be there for each other, no matter what. I turned to the internet, a tool that didn't exist in the same way when Katja left. I typed her name into the search bar, adding Moscow, journalist, media. At first, the results confirmed her triumphant narrative. Articles from the early 2000s, praising her rise as a sharp, incisive reporter. Glamorous photos from society events. Her smiling face next to influential figures. She looked successful, beautiful, untouchable. The Moscow dream realized. But as I scrolled further, digging deeper into obscure archives and less reputable news sites, a different picture began to emerge. Fainter, more unsettling. Whispers of a scandalous divorce from a powerful businessman, a man named Dmitry. Mentions of a bitter custody battle. And then, a recent, more alarming headline, buried in a financial gossip blog. Media darling Katya Petrov loses custody. Faces financial ruin. The article was short, vague, hinting at dirty dealings. A powerful ex-husband using his connections to systematically strip her of everything. My heart pounded against my ribs. Financial ruin. Custody battle. My confident, vibrant Katya losing everything. Then a new email from her. It landed in my inbox like a desperate cry in the dark, even more frantic than the first. Anna, I know you must be wondering. It's worse than you can imagine. Dmitry, he's destroyed me. He took everything. My money, my career, my friends, and Vera. He took Vera. He's making my life a living hell here. He threatened me. I had to leave. I had to get out. I have nowhere to go. No money. No one I can trust. Please, Anna. Please, can I come to you? Just for a little while? I need to get out of Moscow. I need a safe place. The words hung heavy, each one a hammer blow to my heart. Vera. Katya had a daughter. I knew she'd had a child, a little girl named Vera. But Katya rarely spoke of her. Now she'd lost her. My invincible friend, broken, desperate, on the run. A shiver ran down my spine. The Moscow dream, it seemed, had turned into a nightmare. My quiet, comfortable life in Omaha was about to be irrevocably disrupted. But looking at Katya's desperate plea, the image of her fierce, ambitious young face flashed in my mind. The girl who had dared to dream, who had taken the leap. The girl who was my best friend. The girl I had promised to always be there for. My decision, though fraught with trepidation, was clear. I had to help her, no matter the cost. Chapter 3. The long journey home. The weight of Katya's second, more desperate email settled on me with a heavy finality. It wasn't a mere plea for help. It was a cry for rescue. My heart ached for the vibrant girl who had left for Moscow, and for the broken woman she had become. The tranquil routine of my life in Omaha, once a source of comfort, now felt almost selfish in its placidity. I discussed it with Michael. He listened patiently, his usual calm demeanor tinged with concern. Sarah, this is a lot. Are you sure you want to get involved in something so complicated? It sounds like this Dmitry character is dangerous. I know, I said, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. But she's my friend, Michael, my oldest friend. We had dreams, and she's in genuine trouble. I can't just abandon her. He sighed, then nodded slowly. All right, if you're sure. We'll figure it out. What do we need to do? His unwavering support was, as always, my anchor. The logistical nightmare began. Getting Katya out of Moscow was a Herculean task. She had no money. Her passport might be an issue given Dmitry's influence. And securing a visa for someone fleeing a volatile situation was incredibly complex. I started by wiring her a small sum of money through a trusted international service, just enough for basic necessities. Then, I began navigating the bureaucratic labyrinth of visa applications, trying to explain a situation that sounded like a spy novel. It required countless phone calls, emails to embassies, appeals to legal aid groups specializing in international protection. The process was slow, frustrating, and utterly draining. Finally, after weeks of relentless effort, a breakthrough. A temporary humanitarian visa, contingent on a direct flight and sponsorship. I bought her a plane ticket, sending her the e-ticket code with instructions to discard any paper trail. Just get on the plane, Katya, I wrote in an email. We'll be waiting. The day of her arrival dawned gray and wet, a typical Omaha summer morning. Michael and I stood at the arrivals gate, a knot of anxiety twisting in my stomach. What would she look like? Would she be the same vibrant Katya, just a little older? Or would the years and the turmoil have etched themselves deeply onto her? Then I saw her, a thin, frail woman pushing a small, warm suitcase. Her once bright eyes were hollow, shadowed with fear and exhaustion. Her typically immaculate clothes were wrinkled, her hair dull and unkempt. This wasn't the glamorous, invincible Katya from the magazine photos. This was a ghost, a shadow of the girl I knew. She looked utterly broken. She saw me. Her eyes widened, and a flicker of something, relief perhaps, or a desperate hope, crossed her face. She dropped her suitcase and ran towards me, throwing her arms around me. She sobbed, her body shaking with tremors that had nothing to do with the cold. "Anna," she whispered, her voice hoarse, muffled against my shoulder. "Oh, Anna, you came. You really came." We brought her home. Our quiet, comfortable home, which now seemed to hum with an unfamiliar tension. After a warm shower and a simple, home-cooked meal, Katya began to unravel her story. The Moscow dream, it turned out, had indeed been a gilded cage. She had married Dmitry, a man of immense wealth and power, but also ruthless ambition. Their life had been one of unimaginable luxury: apartments in exclusive districts, private jets, endless parties, designer clothes. But it was also a life devoid of genuine affection, built on superficiality and control. "He owned me, Anna," she confessed, her voice trembling. "He owned my time, my choices, even my thoughts. When she tried to leave him, he unleashed his full fury. Using his vast network of connections, he systematically dismantled her life. He froze her assets, ensuring she had no access to money. He blacklisted her from every media outlet, making it impossible for her to find work. He spread vicious rumors, destroying her reputation among her social circle. And then, the ultimate weapon, he used his influence to gain full custody of their daughter, Vera, accusing Katya of being an unfit mother, mentally unstable, and financially irresponsible. "He made it so I couldn't even see her," Katya choked out, tears streaming down her face. "He turned her against me. He told her terrible lies about me." She had been living in fear, constantly looking over her shoulder. Dmitry's threats were subtle but terrifying, a reminder that he could make her disappear, destroy anyone who helped her. She had endured it for months, hoping to find a way to get Vera back, to clear her name. But finally, she realized she had to flee. She had nothing left, nowhere to go, no one to trust, except me. "I had nowhere to go, Anna," she sobbed, burying her face in her hands. "Everyone I knew in Moscow was either afraid of Dmitry or owed him. My entire life, it just vanished." I listened, my heart breaking for her. The bright, ambitious girl who had once dreamed of conquering the world had been crushed by it. My quiet, stable life in Omaha was about to become the unlikely battlefield for a war fought half a world away. A war against a powerful, vindictive man. But as I looked at Katya, her vulnerability laid bare, I knew one thing: I had made the right choice. My old friend was here, and I would do everything in my power to help her rebuild. Chapter 4: Uneasy Alliance. Katya's presence in our home was a seismic shift. Our quiet, predictable routine was replaced by a simmering tension, a constant awareness of her wounded spirit and the shadows she carried from Moscow. We, Michael and I, tried our best. We offered comfort, space, and time. I spent hours listening to her fragmented stories, piecing together the terrifying puzzle of her escape. Slowly, painfully, Katya began to mend. The deep lines of fear around her eyes softened, replaced by a dull, persistent ache. She ate, she slept, she began to take short walks in our suburban neighborhood, a stark contrast to the bustling, dangerous streets of Moscow she had fled. But the healing was superficial. Her heart, I realized, was still in chains, bound by the loss of her daughter, Vera. "I have to get her back, Anna," she would whisper, late at night, her voice raw with desperation. "She's all I have left." She spoke of Vera with a fierce, protective love, a stark contrast to the glamorous, self-absorbed image she had projected from Moscow. I learned that Vera, at 15, was a sensitive, intelligent girl, deeply affected by her parents' brutal divorce. Dmitry, Katya believed, had systematically poisoned Vera's mind against her, painting Katya as selfish, irresponsible, and a danger to her own child. The initial days were filled with a kind of fragile camaraderie, a rekindling of our old friendship. We laughed over shared childhood memories, moments of pure, innocent joy. But as Katya regained some strength, the subtle cracks began to appear. The Katya of old, the ambitious, sometimes arrogant woman, started to resurface. She chafed at the quiet pace of Omaha. She missed the luxury, the fast-paced energy of Moscow. She sometimes dismissed my life, my choices, with a subtle glance or a dismissive comment about small-town living. "It's so slow, Anna," she'd sigh, pacing our living room. "No real coffee shops after 7, no galleries open late, no life." My carefully constructed sense of contentment would prickle with resentment. I knew she was wounded, but her old narcissism, a trait I'd long forgiven, was hard to ignore. Michael, ever patient, would sometimes retreat to his study, sensing the unspoken tension. But then, one evening, Katya dropped a bombshell. "Anna," she said, her voice low, conspiratorial, "I didn't tell you everything. There's something else, something I brought with me. It's why Dmitry is so desperate to silence me." My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" "Evidence, proof of his illegal dealings, money laundering, bribery, connections to less than savory organizations. I collected it, little by little, when we were together. Just in case. He doesn't know I have it. It's my only leverage, my only way to get Vera back." She produced a small, encrypted flash drive, tucked into a hidden pocket of her old, worn handbag. "This," she said, her eyes suddenly blazing with a familiar, dangerous fire, "is my freedom. And Vera's." A wave of fear washed over me. This was far beyond a simple rescue mission. This was stepping into a viper's nest, a world of international intrigue and potentially deadly consequences. Dmitry wasn't just vindictive, he was a criminal, and Katya had brought his crimes, and the proof, into my quiet Omaha home. The tension between us escalated. I argued with her. "Katya, this is too dangerous. What if he finds out you have this? What if he sends someone after you, after us?" "He can't know," she insisted. "This is my only card, my only way to force him to let Vera go. I need to get this out, to someone, to the media, to human rights organizations. But I don't know who to trust, not anymore. I need your help, Anna. You were always the smart one, the one who knew how to find things out." Her eyes once again held that desperate, pleading look. The ethical dilemma weighed heavily on me. My instinct was to protect my family, to stay out of the shadows. But the thought of Vera, trapped in Moscow with a manipulative, potentially dangerous father, spurred me on. and the desperate hope in Katya's eyes, the chance for her to finally reclaim her daughter, pulled at my heartstrings. I remembered my own long-dormant dreams of journalism, of uncovering truths, of changing the world. I hadn't gone to Moscow. I hadn't become an intrepid reporter, but I had my own network, small but sturdy. Years ago, while teaching, I had connected with former classmates who had gone into various fields, some even into international NGOs and independent media. Maybe, just maybe, one of them could help. I looked at the flash drive, a tiny piece of plastic holding a world of danger and hope. My quiet life was now inextricably linked to Katya's desperate fight. I took a deep breath. "All right, Katya," I said, my voice firm. "We'll do this, but we do it my way, carefully, securely. No risks, not for us, not for Vera." The battle for dignity and family was about to go international, and I, the unassuming literature professor from Omaha, was about to become an unlikely participant. Chapter 5, The Gambit. The decision to help Katya with the compromising material against Dmitry was a terrifying gamble. It meant stepping far beyond my comfortable, predictable life into a world of risk and uncertainty. But the image of Vera, trapped in Moscow, and Katya's desperate, unwavering love for her daughter fueled my resolve. This wasn't just about my friend. It was about a child's freedom and a mother's last hope. I began to work in secret, using the quiet hours after Michael went to bed. My old journalism dreams, long dormant, stirred to life. I reached out to former college acquaintances, people who had ventured into international nonprofits, investigative journalism, and human rights advocacy. It was a delicate dance, hinting at a sensitive situation without revealing too much, gauging their trustworthiness and their reach. The internet became my rabbit hole. I researched organizations specializing in exposing corruption, groups with a track record of handling whistleblowers from volatile regions. I knew any contact had to be absolutely secure, untraceable. Dmitry's reach was extensive, his methods ruthless. Meanwhile, Katya adjusted slowly to her new reality. Her old, fiery ambition, though subdued, still flared occasionally. She sometimes chafed at the necessity of secrecy, the slowness of the process. "We need to act faster, Anna," she'd insist, pacing my living room. "He'll find me. He'll guess." I had to constantly remind her of the immense risk, the need for caution. The tension between us, born of our vastly different experiences, was palpable. One evening, as we sat together, Katya suddenly reached for her worn handbag. "There's one more thing, Anna," she said, her voice trembling. She pulled out a small crumpled letter, the paper thin and fragile. "This is from Vera. She sent it to me secretly, before Dmitry cut off all my communication. She doesn't know I'm here. She thinks I abandoned her. She believes her father's lies." The letter was heartbreaking. Vera's childlike handwriting, filled with confusion and hurt. "Mama, where are you? Why did you leave? Papa says you don't love me anymore. Is it true? I miss you." It was a cry for help, a desperate plea for reassurance from a frightened child. "I need to send her a letter, Anna," Katya pleaded, her eyes welling with tears. "I need to tell her the truth. I need her to know I never abandoned her, that I love her more than anything." My heart went out to her. This was the raw, vulnerable Katya I knew from childhood, stripped of all her Moscow gloss. But sending a letter to Vera in Moscow was incredibly risky. Any direct contact would alert Dmitry. "How?" I asked. "He controls everything." "There's one person," Katya whispered. "My old driver, Sergei. He was loyal. He hated Dmitry. He might still be willing to help. He knows my old apartment building. He knows how to be discreet. It was a long shot, a desperate attempt to bridge the chasm between mother and daughter. I drafted a careful, heartfelt letter from Katya to Vera, pouring out her truth, her love, her desperate hope. Then, with the help of one of my new, cautious contacts, a former colleague who now worked for a small, reputable human rights organization in Europe, I managed to get the letter sent to Sergei through a series of anonymous, encrypted channels. It felt like a mission from a spy movie, but the stakes were real. Weeks passed in agonizing suspense. Had Sergei received it? Had he delivered it? Would Vera believe it? Would it simply put them both in danger? The waiting was almost unbearable. Meanwhile, my international contacts bore fruit. A small but highly respected investigative journalism collective in Europe expressed cautious interest in Katya's story and her evidence. They had experience with high-profile corruption cases involving powerful Russian figures. It was a glimmer of hope, but the process would be slow, methodical, and dangerous. They need to see the evidence, Katya, I explained, and they need your testimony, but anonymously at first. If this goes public, Dmitry will know it's you. Katya nodded, her face grim. I know, but I have nothing left to lose. Not if it means getting Vera back. She passed me the encrypted flash drive, a tiny, innocuous device holding the potential to shatter a powerful man's empire. The collective agreed to review the material. They flew a trusted, discreet courier to Omaha, ostensibly a university researcher attending a conference, to pick up the drive. The exchange was tense, covert, happening in a bustling coffee shop, far from prying eyes. And then, the impossible happened. A reply. Not an email, not a text, but a handwritten letter, folded inside a plain envelope, delivered by the same anonymous channels. It was from Vera. My hands trembled as I opened it. Katya stood beside me, her breath hitched. Mama, Vera's handwriting read, I got your letter. Sergei gave it to me. Papa says it's lies. He says you're trying to hurt him. But your words feel true. I miss you. I'm scared. Are you really safe? Are you coming back for me? Please tell me you're coming back. I love you. Tears streamed down Katya's face. It wasn't full acceptance, not yet. But it was a crack in the wall Dmitry had built, a flicker of hope. Vera knew. She suspected. She was reaching out. The gambit had worked. And now, the true battle was about to begin. Katya had the evidence. Vera had heard the truth. It was time to push back against Dmitry, to bring his dark empire into the light. Chapter 6. Moscow's Retreat, Omaha's Peace. The letter from Vera was the catalyst. It wasn't a full embrace, not yet, but it was a lifeline, a desperate plea for truth from a daughter to her mother. Katya clutched it, her face a mixture of profound relief and renewed determination. She knows, Anna, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. She knows. With Vera's tentative trust secured, Katya's resolve solidified. The investigative journalism collective in Europe, having meticulously verified the contents of the flash drive, was ready to act. The evidence against Dmitry was overwhelming. Detailed ledgers of illicit transactions, shell corporations, bribed officials, and connections to criminal enterprises. It was a powder keg. The collective, known for its integrity and fearlessness, chose its moment. They released an investigative report, not as a sensational exposé, but as a meticulously researched document detailing Dmitry's financial crimes and his abuse of power. It was published simultaneously by several major European news outlets, and international anti-corruption organizations. The story quickly went viral, amplified by social media. The impact was immediate and devastating for Dmitry. His carefully constructed facade of legitimacy crumbled. International sanctions were threatened. His business partners began to distance themselves. Law enforcement agencies in various countries launched preliminary inquiries. The pressure mounted, swiftly and relentlessly. Dmitry, a man who thrived in the shadows, found himself exposed to the unforgiving glare of international scrutiny. He was a predator who preyed on silence and fear. Now his deepest fear, public exposure and legal consequences, had become a reality. He quickly realized that continuing to pursue Katya, to persecute her and hide Vera, would only intensify the scrutiny, digging his own grave deeper. His reputation, his vast wealth, his very freedom were at stake. Within a few weeks, the phone call came. Not from Dmitry himself, but from his lawyers. They offered a settlement. Dmitry would drop all legal actions against Katya, restore her financial rights, and, most importantly, agree to a new custody arrangement for Vera. She would be allowed to visit Katya in Omaha, with the possibility of a permanent move if she wished. In return, Katya would cease cooperating with the media and human rights organizations, and the more sensitive, personal details of their divorce would remain private. It was a bitter pill for Katya. She wanted Dmitry to pay for everything he had done, but her focus was Vera, and this was the quickest, safest path to bring her daughter back. With Brenda Sterling's careful guidance, we negotiated the terms. The agreement was signed. The gambit had worked. A month later, Vera arrived in Omaha. She was taller than I remembered from the few photos Katya had shared. Her eyes, so like Katya's, were wary, yet held a glimmer of hope. The reunion between mother and daughter was not a grand, tearful embrace. It was tentative, fragile. Vera was still affected by Dmitry's manipulation, by the pain of her parents' divorce. But seeing Katya, no longer the glamorous, distant figure from her Moscow life, but a vulnerable woman fighting for her, slowly, began to thaw Vera's heart. Katya, too, was transformed. The old ambition, the hunger for glamour, seemed to have been burned out of her by the fires of adversity. She embraced the quiet simplicity of Omaha. She spent her days trying to reconnect with Vera, rebuilding a relationship that had been so brutally fractured. They talked, they cooked together, they explored the simple beauty of Nebraska. It was a long, arduous process, filled with difficult conversations, but it was real. As for me, Anna, my life in Omaha, which once seemed so ordinary, now felt extraordinary. I had faced down fear, navigated complex international waters, and helped save a friend and her daughter. I hadn't gone to Moscow. I hadn't become an intrepid journalist. But I had, in my own quiet way, uncovered a truth, fought for justice, and helped change lives. My strength, I realized, wasn't in grand gestures or public triumphs, but in quiet courage, unwavering loyalty, and the simple act of extending a hand when someone needed it most. Katya and Vera decided to stay in Omaha, at least for the foreseeable future. Katya found a modest job, not in media, but working for a local nonprofit. She had shed the gilded cage of Moscow, choosing a life of quiet dignity and genuine connection. Our friendship, once a distant echo, deepened into something profound and resilient. We were no longer two girls dreaming of Moscow. We were two women, forged by different paths, but forever bound by shared history and the unbreakable ties of friendship. My life remained calm, yet it was irrevocably enriched. I looked at my cozy home, at Michael, at the new, vibrant life unfolding within its walls, and felt a profound sense of peace. The Moscow dream, for both of us, had taken an unexpected turn. For Katya, it had been a crucible. For me, it had been a testament to the quiet power of a life well lived, and the strength found in helping those we love, no matter how far they've strayed.